It's time for Cats Talk Wednesday. Small town and big city joined forces. Vinny Hardy of Lynch, Kentucky, and Terry Brown of Louisville, Kentucky, team up to give you free-flowing, laid-back sports talk. Focus on Kentucky Wildcats, as well as pertinent information in the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball.
Vinny Hardy, Terry Brown, Cats Talk Wednesday, BS3 Network. Tons to talk about, like what we were saying before the show started. TB, hey, I see you still staying faithful, so props for that. Uh, we got to. I'm down there with you. I understand. So,
Man, throw the whole season away. Like, it's just been, the Super Bowl losing hangover. That's a thing, right? Like, I think there's a stretch the Super Bowl loser didn't even get back to the playoffs.
yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's like the World Series loser, the NBA Finals loser. Or, okay, right? Not it sucks, but you're right back at it. But losing the Super Bowl is just, and the way we lost. I remember when the Super Bowl ended, giving up that touchdown with like 9 seconds left in overtime. And I was looking at the players and I'm like, oh, this is different. Like this one, because I mean, you always want to win the Super Bowl, right? But they really wanted to beat Mahomes and the Chiefs. And then to get to overtime and play that much of the overtime. And so I figured that was going to be an issue, but the injuries, and then this is a tragedy. Trent Williams lost his twins. Travarius Ward lost his little girl. Like this, just throw the whole season away. Like, I mean, and then the Buffalo game, losing CMC and Mason. Like, just throw it all away. Some fans like, oh, we can still make. No, man. Like, no. That would require us winning out, and that would require the Seahawks, Arizona, and is it the Rams? Who am I missing?
They in there.
Yeah, to lose out. And I'm like, that's not happening. You start looking at that kind of stuff, like that's not happening. So my thing is just let's cruise to the end of the year and regroup, man. Like we just banged up, but yeah, I'm still representing.
Yeah, for sure. We got a fun show. We got the Cats and Clemson to talk about. We got Teran Rodriguez, friend of the show from Set Point, who probably, like we said, with the homie Hunter Mitchell and Teran, know Kentucky volleyball more than anybody. Teran was already tweeting out when they won the SEC. He's like, can't wait to come on Cats Talk Wednesday and talk about Kentucky volleyball. He said, he was like, when can I come on? I was like, hey, you welcome anytime. And so got Teran coming on and talk about Coach Skinner and Kentucky volleyball. And then got Danny Pendleton from Bluegrass Sports Nation, does photography for them. He's retired. So look, he already doing stuff we like to be. We like to be retired. He already is. Great photographs from Rupp and courtside and all that for Bluegrass Sports Nation. So be having fun talking with Danny, talk about the Cats with him as well, fellow Kentuckian. So two great guests, in addition to TCB, Terry Brown, myself, doing what we do. Just random, man. Do people ever come up and call you Terrence? Hey, is that short for Terrence? Or, because I get, hey, is that short for Vincent? I'm like, no.
Well, and that's the weird thing, right? Like, this is what I realized. Like, people either want to shorten your name or lengthen your name.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to leave your name alone. Like, my dad, he was James.
Okay.
Like, only my mom called him Jim.
Okay.
And I remember he told somebody that it sounded like something out of a movie. Well, James or Jim, what do I call you? And he was like, only my woman calls me Jim. And I was like, that is some of the coldest stuff. Like,
the shaft theme started up.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. All right. But yeah, people like, is it Terrence? No, it's Terry. And then, when I was younger, it was because I'm born in the 70s. People are like, oh, you named for Terry Bradshaw? I'm like, no. Like, what? No. But my name is Terry because it's my mother's maiden name. So that's where Terry come from. She got to name me because my oldest brother was James Jr. We called him Jimmy. And then my middle brother was Kenneth. And my dad did those honors. And then there's myself. I'm Terry. So, but yeah, people always like, is it no? I had a guy in high school call me Terrence Trent Darby, and I'm like, that's really not remotely close, but okay.
So Mama B named you. Papa B named the first two. Mama B named you. Okay.
Because my dad had a healthy ego. So James is James Norman Brown. So James, my next brother Kenneth, J.K. Ken.
Okay.
Middle name is Norman. Okay. And then his middle name is Morris, Kenneth Morris Brown. So J to K, N to M. That's legit how my dad came up with my middle brother's name. Based off his name. He would have done a George Foreman if he could.
Right. That's what I was like. That's where I was going. I was like, man, okay.
And then my dad hits me with me and my first wife having a baby. We didn't find out what we were having until the baby got here. But he's like, James is a good name. I've got a nephew that's James the Third. Okay. So I'm like, the world don't need another James Brown. Like, no.
Yes.
No. And I decided I wasn't going to do a junior. Because my first wife's name was Carrie. You can't have Terry, Carrie, and little Terry. That's yeah. That's one of those things too. People like the one thing my dad being James Brown, I learned is one, no jokes on people's names, right?
Right.
Because you don't know who they're named after. You don't know, right? And if you meet a James Brown, he has heard them all.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we'd be somewhere, oh, you James Brown. And I'd be like, do you feel good? And my dad would be like, and I'm like, what about my dad's visage thinks that he's here for the jokes?
Yeah.
Like, he's already in his 70s. Like, what are you doing?
Everybody thinks they're the first one.
Everyone thinks that they have discovered a joke. Like I said, my first wife, her name was Carrie. Be like, do y'all know your names rhyme? Like, yes, literally 0.8 seconds after I said, hey, I'm Terry. Like, yes, I know how this works. Or people, I remember I don't know if it's elementary, middle school, we first started studying tuberculosis, right? And they're like, TB, yes, TB, yes. Like, I mean, yes. Yes.
I got the Vinny Testaverdes, the Vinny Johnson, hey, the microwave, hey. Hardy Boys from the books, the Hardy's Restaurant, all that, so wow. But yeah, I meant to say that a few episodes ago. I said, everybody probably say, man, I bet that's short for Terrence, ain't it?
Yeah, and I'm like, no. Like, are you sure? Pretty sure. Pretty sure.
Terry and Carrie, look, his shocker, a movie I actually saw. That scene from was it the Wedding Singer where Drew Barrymore's like, my name's gonna be Julia Gulia.
Julia Gulia. Why is that funny? Yeah.
I've seen that, man. I've seen it. I'm just saying.
But it's I tell you, the funniest thing is you have to have security passwords for a bunch of things. And a lot of stuff, it used to be, not anymore, but it used to be your mother's maiden name.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember what job it was. And I'm filling out this thing. The guy's like, you're filling out wrong. This is supposed to be your mother's maiden name. Yes. He's like, not your first name. Yes, I understand. They're both the same. Really? I'm like, people use family names.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like,
especially
I didn't think it was that weird.
This is the name fits, the mother's maiden name. I remember a kid I went to school named Josh Evans. His name would have been Wilson Evans had his mom used, her mom's maiden name. And, that fit. Wilson is the last name, but it fit for a first name had they went that route. And I always remember him saying that, my mom's name is Thompson, which Thompson Hardy that'd been a little bit weird. But a lot of people went maiden name for the mom, for the first name for the kid, for the son, for sure.
Yeah, and I was going to be Terry regardless, either with an I or a Y.
Mm-hmm.
Mama B had already determined that.
She had enough of you, Jim. I'm about to put my stamp on this baby.
Because keep in mind, as I like to let folks know, there's a 17-year gap between me and my brothers.
Right.
So I was a surprise baby. So I mean, every time I think about that with my that sounds like a damn nightmare. You got the kids out and then surprise like that.
Yes.
And so my parents were older than everybody else's parents by far because whatever. Oh man, and growing up, my dad was awesome, and we would do catch, we would do all that kind of stuff, but only for a short time. Like we would throw catch, and then my dad was like, "That's enough," because I'm 10, he 50.
Yeah.
And I remember one, a couple times I get out there and I'm trying to wing it at him. He's like, "Oh, it's like that. Let's go inside." Like, so I get it, man. And I'm thinking, I'm 47. I'm like, having a 7-year-old,
right?
That sounds like a nightmare. And I got friends that got like elementary school kids. I'm like, Dad, I'm past that. I'm in that sweet spot. I'm too old for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And as I remind my children, I'm too young to be a grandfather, right? Like,
yeah.
Right? Okay. All right.
Because my Katie is 10 years. She's the youngest of 3. Her sister is 10 years older than her. And she, and then she heard about you. She's like, whoa. She's like, I thought I was late. I mean, I knew I was accident, but for you to be 17, they graduating high school. They like for real grown and about to leave.
Look, to me, I had the best of both worlds because I was in our everyday. I was the only child. I was the only one at home, right? So I didn't share nothing. But a lot of people talking about, oh, my big brother. Like, by the time I'm coming up, they got their own apartments and everything. Like,
yeah,
I had cool older brothers. They had like real jobs and stuff. Like, by the time I'm doing stuff, so it was, like I said, it was the best of both worlds. Like, I had family, but I didn't have to share nothing with nobody. So that was great too.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll share another screen with our guest. He is backstage in the BS3 Network Green Room. Friend of the show, comes on, drops volleyball knowledge, tweets and tags us in tweets all throughout the season. Whenever Coach Skinner and the Kentucky volleyball squad are doing big things, and they did it again for another year, another SEC championship, ready for postseason play. Talking about our guy coming to us from the West Coast, does the Set Point show. Talking about our guy Teran Rodriguez. Teran, man, appreciate you coming back. How you doing?
Doing good. Thank you, boys, for having me back. I had to don the Kentucky Royal Blue. Yeah. I greatly appreciate it. Ready to talk some Kentucky volleyball with you too.
We as soon as I saw that they had clinched that 8th, I said to myself, I was like, we got to get Teran on here to talk about it. Because not only is it the 8th straight, but that's with bringing Texas in.
Exactly.
And that was the thing in my mind. I'm like, oh, Texas, because Texas is what, back-to-back champs? Is that right? 2 in a row?
Yeah, well, they hadn't partaken in the SEC, but they were pretty much dominant in the Big 12. They were pretty much running through the Big 12 like nobody's business. There even was a stretch where I think they won 73 straight conference matches in a row back in 12.
So they were coming in.
And they've been reigning national champs.
That was my thing. Is like they got the big hardware, and we've lost some players to Texas. And for Kentucky to keep it moving like 8 straight. I mean, that's a LeBron-like run.
Exactly. Yeah, they lost Rutherford and Maddie Skinner.
Yeah. So with that, knowing that happened, going into the season, your projections, your predictions, or what you thought might happen, Teran, did you kind of pencil in Texas as the SEC champ? You're like, yeah, let's go through Austin this year. Or how did you pick your top, 3 or 4 or 5 in the SEC going into this year?
Yeah, I kind of figured Texas was going to win. No offense to Kentucky, obviously. I just felt that Kentucky, they were good, but I think Texas was just bringing in players from left and right. They returned most of their core outside of like Asia O'Neal and a few others. They had Jenna Wenis returning and Avery Carlson. They brought in Avery Carlson from Baylor. And they also had Ella Swindle as well. So lots of good players that were returning for Texas's championship team from last year. So it was kind of natural to kind of pick Texas. I think everyone might have picked Texas except for maybe you two and maybe other Kentucky fans. So, yeah, it wasn't anything against Kentucky. I just feel that Texas was just looking more and more complete. But Kentucky, to their credit, they were able to ride the momentum and play some of their best volleyball when it mattered most.
For sure. And we've seen this happen before too. And Coach Skinner does it almost on a yearly basis. Do you see other big time programs playing that tough non-conference schedule like Kentucky does? And they've taken lumps. This year, I mean, started off slow. Last year took it on the chin in some matchups. Then you get into conference play, you have Auburn 2-0 and lose 3-2. I'm like, oh man, have you seen other programs kind of do that where they just take on all comers? Like, okay, let's see where we are, and then kind of come into conference play a little bit beat up as far as the record goes, and then kind of right the ship from there.
For sure. And one team that is a big prime example of that is Creighton, because Creighton plays in the Big East Conference, not really the biggest and best conference outside of like Marquette. But yeah, Creighton was a team that scheduled really tough. But Kentucky, they had a loaded schedule as well. Looking at their schedule, they right off the bat, they faced Nebraska, which returned a majority of its players and got even better with Layla Blackwell, just to name one, and a few others. And then they had Western Kentucky, a good perennial NCAA tournament team. Penn State, which obviously they're one of the top number one seeds. James Madison, solid team. Ball State, solid team. SMU, which really surged this season. Purdue, another good team. Louisville, really good team. Stanford, really good team. And then that's just the non-conference schedule. You look at the SEC, they needed those matches to toughen themselves up for the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. You about to say something, TV?
No, I hate to say Louisville's one of these good teams, but they are.
And
that's just a personal preference. I can't hate.
As far
even
as
though they dropped their final two games to Pitt and Stanford.
Yeah.
I digress.
As far as Kentucky volleyball, the state, Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and Louisville in volleyball, those three, I mean, pretty much every year consistently putting out good to very good, strong teams every year in volleyball and have been for the past few years.
Absolutely. I think it's pretty phenomenal that Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and Louisville are just three really good programs. Now, you mentioned Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky kind of has a tough first draw. They got Minnesota, which very well could advance out of the first two rounds. But you got to love what Western Kentucky does, even though there's been roster changes and then there's been conference changes within teams going in and out. They just still continue to run their conference very well. And then Kentucky, as we all know, they took their lumps, as you mentioned. They had lost 4 straight at one point, and that's kind of the big thing right there. You kind of got to get the losing streaks out of the way. Like, for instance, they lost they lost 4 straight at one point to Purdue in 4 sets, Louisville in 4 sets, Stanford in 4 sets, and then they got reverse swept by Auburn. And then they went on a little bit of a win streak, won 3 in a row, lost to Texas, but never lost again. Now, I mentioned playing some good volleyball and getting the bad streaks out of the way. Texas kind of had a little bit of a stretch where they had lost 3 in a row at home in SEC play. They lost to Texas A&M, which that was the loss that snapped the 73-match home conference match losing streak. They also lost to Missouri, which a good team in its respects. They were in the top 25. And they lost to Oklahoma, which, do you know what those 3 teams have in common?
I used to be in the Big 12 back in the day.
that's a good fun fact. But a nice little fun fact about those three teams is they all made the NCAA tournament. Oklahoma made it, Missouri made it, and A&M made it. So that's rather fascinating right there. And without that 3-game losing streak, it might not have looked good for Kentucky to try to win the SEC, just because Texas did beat Kentucky and they had that tiebreaker over them. So had Kentucky not gotten that third loss, or had Texas not gotten that third loss, Texas would have been the automatic qualifier, and they would have clinched at least a share of the SEC. But the ball bounced in favor of Kentucky, and they've got some momentum going into the NCAA tournament, as it just looks really good for Kentucky. Brooklyn DeLay is phenomenal. You also have other players like Megan Wilson, Jordan Daly, Brooke Bultema, Aaron Lamb, Asia Thigpen, Emma Grome, just to name a few. And then Molly Tuozo, she's been fantastic at the libero position. That's kind of a position that Kentucky seems to have nailed down no matter who takes over.
That's one thing I've heard, is because we've had libero of the year, like a lot of them. I don't want to start naming them because I'll miss somebody, but that seems to be what Kentucky's known for. It used to be like, Penn State was linebacker U and this kind of thing, but it appears that the libero position, Kentucky's going to have a good one. Like, we'll figure out everything else, but we got this locked down. That seems to be what Coach Skinner and company are doing.
For sure, and that's one of the tougher positions in volleyball. It doesn't give like the big numbers where you get the thunderous kills, but it's basically helping the defense keep the ball off the floor and whatnot. So, and it's really impressive that Kentucky just continues to reload and not rebuild. And that's what makes them one of the more consistent power for conferences.
So, Teran, looking forward to the tournament. Of course, we got some big names. Who are you looking to get to that Final Four, which I believe is in Louisville this year, if I'm not mistaken?
Mm-hmm. I haven't even filled out my bracket, but obviously, okay, I might as well go on the record and say this. I got Pitt making it to the Final Four, Nebraska, obviously. That's the upper left bracket, and then that's the lower and the upper right bracket. Lower right bracket. Lower left bracket. Man, this one's a toss-up between Stanford and Louisville. I mean, Louisville has the motivation to make it to the Final Four. And then Stanford, they're solid. Obviously, they've got a bunch of good players like Aaliyah Rubin, Cammie Minor, Sammy Francis, Alina Ogilvy. Man, you know what? I got pencil in Stanford. I don't really trust Louisville all that much. I mean, they have great players.
That's good.
Anna DeBeer. But I'm sorry, Louisville Nation. If I'm wrong, I will gladly eat my crow. But I got Stanford make it. Last year, I had Stanford make it to the national championship, and they wound up losing to Texas. Speaking of Texas, you know what? I'm going to go bold here and say Texas makes it to the Final Four.
Okay.
Now, Texas, they obviously had a close one with Ole Miss, nearly losing that one. They were down 14-11 in set 5, but Ole Miss had 3 straight hitting errors, and eventually they were able to win the match 17-15 in that 5th set. Maddie Skinner actually did not play that game as she was battling an illness. So hopefully for Texas's sake, and the entire Texas fan base, they get her back by the time the NCAA tournament rolls around. But they have a pretty challenging first two matches as well. They've got Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and then they'll face the winner of UT Arlington USC, which I was pulling for USC to host this season, but unfortunately they didn't.
So how little sleep would you have over these next few days once the tournament starts? Because you're in the West Coast and you're watching all these matches. So how much how sleepy will Teran Rodriguez be over these next few days?
It all depends. I mean, I've also got my my other part-time job to balance out, but I mean, I'm hoping to get some sleep, but I'm going to be like really busy. I'm also going to try to pump out content to the point where, I'll have like post-game reaction shows where I basically recap everything that happened. Like that's going to probably be my goal, to like have like recap shows, to like recap the first few rounds of the tournament, and then maybe recap the Sweet 16, then the Elite 8. Just reaction shows, and kind of like what you guys are doing. I'm also on StreamYard with Set Point as well, so I got to keep it going right there, and hopefully I can keep growing Set Point. But yeah, that's going to be my goal, to try to have like reaction videos, not just like short 2-minute, 20-second videos, just like a live show where, kind of like this, we can have fans engaging, talking about how teams were able to, pull out the win or just barely get edged out or pull an upset and whatnot. So that's going to be my goal, hopefully.
So where, like, say, Kentucky volleyball fans want to tune in after their first round match, tell everybody where they can go to find you on Set Point, and where they can log in and see your analysis of their match.
So I go live on StreamYard as always, and it gets posted to the IE Sports Radio YouTube account. Make sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube. We have surpassed 300 subscribers. We're trying to get more, so definitely tune in. This is the best time. And then also it'll be streamed on YouTube X as well. So if you want to go catch that, it's at IE Sports Radio on X, and then like and subscribe to us on YouTube. The way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @set_point_IE, and on Instagram at @set_point_IESR. That's the best way you can find me. Trying to get more into Instagram, and it looks like I am. So yeah.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. The postseason. It's the regular season flew by, and it's that time again. So anxious to see, how the bracket goes. When you look at the NCAA tournament, for instance, Maryland, Baltimore County, a 16 beat Virginia, the 1 seed a few years ago. Huge upset. It never happened. What are some of the biggest upsets that have happened in volleyball from, a number 1 seed, a number 2 seed going out in the first round or something like that, where you're like, oh man, nobody had that happening? What are some of those bracket busting matches that have happened in the NCAA tournament for volleyball?
I think in 2019, I forget the team that beat this team, but Pitt did lose in the round of 32, and I think they were like one of the top overall seeds. That was back when Pitt was solid. They weren't blowouty like they are now, but they were really solid, and the fact that they lost in the round of 32 was very surprising. I think I had them either going to the Elite 8 or the Final Four, so that was kind of a culture change right there. And then I guess that same year, 2019, Texas losing to Cincinnati, that was a big one. I think that was in the Sweet 16. That was such a huge win. That was back when Jordan Thompson, who was an Olympian in 2020 and 2024 for the women's national team, she was able to lead Cincinnati to an upset over Texas, which that's never an easy thing to do. And this was pre-Big 12. This was before Cincinnati moved to the Big 12 and Texas moved to the SEC and whatnot. So, and this was before all of the whole pandemic happening and transfer things and whatnot. So I think those are some notable upsets right there. I guess Stanford losing in the round of 32 to LMU in a straight sweep was also big right there. I think it was in 2016, I want to say, if not 17, or maybe before that. It might have been 15 or 14. Though it's been a while since I've looked at some of the past upsets. But yeah, those are some upsets that kind of came to my mind.
Did you catch yourself pulling for the little guy in that matchup? The David in the matchup, were you hoping, I hope they knock Pitt out, like a lot of us do? Did you catch yourself getting caught up in it's going to set 5, can they hang on or whatever? Is that?
Yeah, kind of. I always like to root for the underdogs and maybe some of the mid-majors as well. And I hate to kind of bring this up, but there was kind of another stunner. I think it was 2021, the post-pandemic, the post-pandemic, where we got to have a full season. And you're probably not going to like this one. It was when Illinois stunned Kentucky in the second round. I'm sorry to say this. I'm sorry to bring up that loss up.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, I was like, what? Illinois? I mean, don't get me wrong. Kudos to Chris Tomas's team because Illinois was really good back then. They're back in the tournament this season, but I was just perplexed by that. It's like the reigning champs are out after the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was definitely stunning on our end too, and it falls into that category of a big upset like that. Was from an outsider looking in, for a guy who covers volleyball a lot, just give us your thoughts on Craig Skinner. I mean, just his coaching style, what he's done to build a program and sustain it. Just your thoughts and the way you watch him take care of business and do his work as a coach.
I think he's a fantastic coach and a great guy overall. I mean, what he's done with Kentucky is just straight up amazing. 8 straight SEC titles, either won outright or shared. Kentucky's the only SEC team to win a national championship in women's volleyball. That's also pretty impressive. I don't care if it was in the post-pandemic. A championship is still a championship. He gets great, amazing players. He gets the best out of players. And some of these players eventually move on to become either be professionals or to become coaches or better people in life. So, yeah, Craig Skinner is just a fantastic coach and an even more fantastic human being. I hope to one day meet him in person. I think he would be such a swell guy to just meet up in person and talk volleyball with.
Yeah.
The 8 straight, I had to check with Dick Gabriel on this, Vinny. You got to go back to like 53, 54 for Kentucky men's basketball to have done that. That's how ridiculous 8 straight SEC championships are.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to check some of the other sports, but I don't know. I mean, 8 straight, I don't think Alabama's done that. Like, I mean, that is rarefied air. That's Kansas over in the Big 12, men's basketball. Like, That's a pretty remarkable run to have 2 whole classes come through, and they all got rings. That's insane.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Teran, I know you're out there in California, and I know you, if I'm not mistaken, last time you're on, a big Chargers guy too, right? So your thoughts on Harbaugh and the fellas and what he's doing with Justin Herbert and the squad out there, trying to keep up with those Chiefs in the AFC West. How do you think they're going to do this year?
Well, they're doing pretty good. They've surpassed their win total from last year, which says a whole lot about last year's team compared to this year's team. I think Jim Harbaugh has done an excellent job with this program and with the team and how he's really gotten the Chargers back up. I obviously expected them to make the playoffs. I don't expect them to be world beaters or championship contenders right away, but it's always one step at a time. And all Jim Harbaugh does is win for the most part. And it really shows in the body of work that the Chargers have had. Yes, they haven't beaten the greatest teams, but as the old saying goes, you can only play the teams on your schedule. And I think the Chargers have done amazing under Jim Harbaugh, and they're in a position where they're getting closer and closer to the playoffs. And I know this weekend they've got the Chiefs, but I'm actually feeling a little more confident in the Chargers as opposed to like previous times where when the Chargers would face the Chiefs, I would just be like, well, maybe the Chargers will put up a good fight, but I think the Chargers definitely have a legit chance. No offense to Chiefs fans and the Chiefs. I think as long as the Chargers play their style of football and they limit the turnovers and the mistakes and whatnot, and they force Mahomes into a good amount of mistakes, they should be fine. But they did get hampered in terms of like their running back core. J.K. Dobbins obviously is hurt. Their cornerback core obviously has taken a massive hit, having brought in Tahib Still, which he had himself a game against Atlanta. So as long as the Chargers, take care of their own business, I think they could be fine. They might actually have a shot against the Chiefs.
How gorgeous is SoFi in person? I mean, I just see that thing on TV, just the way it looks, and that's a nice stadium. So you're out there, and how pretty is that stadium?
So I only been to SoFi once. It costs a pretty penny to get into SoFi, but yeah, it's an amazing stadium right there. I really like SoFi Stadium. not just from looking at it in a television perspective, but in an in-person perspective. I thought the atmosphere was amazing. So it was definitely a great idea to build SoFi Stadium.
Mm-hmm. Well, man, it was a great idea for you to hop on here with us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you reaching out. We always love talking volleyball with you and NFL. We touch on all the sports, but of course, volleyball predominantly because that's your specialty. And I always enjoy your content.
Yes, sir.
IE Sports Radio on YouTube. Looking forward to all the reaction for all the matches, especially the Kentucky match. So, BBN, tune in and subscribe and see what Teran has to say.
Yeah, they've got Cleveland State in the opening round, and if they win that matchup, they would draw the winner of Western Kentucky and Minnesota. And I basically touched upon it. Minnesota is a tough team, but as long as Kentucky is playing their style of volleyball, they're playing Kentucky volleyball, and they're not focusing on their side of the net, they should be fine. But they got to focus on Cleveland State. Cleveland State is a solid team, having won its conference. And then Minnesota, obviously coming out of the Big Ten, really good. Western Kentucky having won their conference, also really good. So Kentucky might have its hands full, but I think Kentucky's battle tested. They're on a winning streak, having won 11 matches in a row. And Brooklyn DeLay, you got to definitely watch for her. She is a fantastic player, and she's kind of rode the momentum following the departure of Reagan Rutherford. So I look forward to seeing what Kentucky has in store for us, and hopefully Kentucky can have a deep tournament run.
Yeah,
well, that's what we hope for.
Yeah,
I'd be more than down to come back and talk about the Kentucky run.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And if the Cats are, doing a West Coast trip again, maybe you can meet Coach Skinner, or maybe you can come east to Kentucky, come to Lexington to the historic Memorial Coliseum. It's been renovated where the Cats play their games. $82 million upgrades to the facility. It is amazing. The women's basketball team plays there. Volleyball team plays there. You can come and catch Kentucky volleyball in the Bluegrass State, man. We'd love to have you, Teran.
For sure. I definitely would keep that in mind.
Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you again, and we'll definitely have you back on sometime, man. I always enjoy talking with you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Teran Rodriguez, host of Set Point on IE Sports Radio. Always fun chopping it up. He's a friend of the show. We got a new first-time guest backstage, also TV.
Okay.
Fellow Kentuckian. We see his work at Rupp Arena all the time. He's a photographer at Bluegrass Sports Nation. He is also a drone captain at Drone 1 Kentucky. He also is retired, like we talked about. We wish we could be that ourselves.
Some of those drone pics was cold, man. When you sent me, I started going through some of them. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Showing pictures of Man of War. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's about none other than Danny Pendleton. Danny, man, welcome to the show. Enjoyed having you, man. Thank you for coming on.
Good evening. Thanks. And thanks for having me. Both of you gentlemen there. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, honored to have you, man. All we just don't know where to start, man. The drone captain stuff, all this interesting stuff you did, man. How'd you get into all this stuff, Danny?
Just a passion, man. Just a passion of mine. I love photography and I love UK, and the two of them have been joined together, and it's been a fun ride, brother.
Yeah, we always enjoy checking out your work. So do you do every home game as far as basketball? Are you at all of them at Rupp?
I do all the women's home games. I do most of the non-conference men's games.
Okay.
The gentleman who actually owns the company, he is out of Breathitt County, Jackson, Kentucky. He will pick up a lot of the SEC games when they get into SEC play, but there will be some games that he won't be able to make, and I'll be there.
Sounds good. So you down there, carving out elbow space with Jeff Drummond and those guys. You pushing Jeff out the way and get out of my shot, Jeff.
Yeah, yes, sir. He usually sits over on the other side of the basket from me. But occasionally we get to rub elbows. Jeff's a great guy. I've talked to Jeff many times pregame. We both are up on the second level of the photographer's workout area, and we get an opportunity to chat. And I like to pick his brain. And Jeff's a pretty smart fella, and I enjoy listening to him, what he has to say, and hanging out with him.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's come over here several times. We enjoyed talking with him always. The last home game for Georgia State, did you kind of see the chippiness coming? You were like, I might get some good shots of this little dust up, or did you? What was your thoughts on everything the other night?
I tell you what, buddy, that game, man, they were just, I don't know what was up with and his name is rightly so, Clash.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
That's what I saw most of the game, man. He was just like I don't know if he had a chip on his shoulder or if he just wanted to be a bully or what, but it was all throughout the whole game. And I got to see it. I got to see the whole thing. And unfortunately, when the little scuffle broke out, I won't say it was a fight because it wasn't really a fight, but it was a scuffle. They were down at the other end of the court, and I didn't have a very good view of the scuffle. I was able to snap off a few photos, but they weren't quite as good as some of the guys that were up at the other end of the court. But, when the referee did the OX,
Yeah.
I thought, oh boy, he's gone. But he left the court. I don't know. I didn't catch the details on that. You may have, but he left the court. He went to the back. But then about 10 minutes later, he came back to the court and actually, I think, got back in the game.
To foul out. Eventually he did foul out. The way it was relayed was you had the flagrant foul and then a technical foul. But I think what confused everybody was the official did the "you're out of here" motion, and then he left. That's what I'm like. That's universal, right? The "you're out of here" that goes back way back. So that's what I assumed. I know he was just had the one technical and the flagrant, but when official does that, I'm like, well, he's out. And then they're like, he's back. I'm like, how does that work? I don't know. I don't know how it worked.
Yeah, it was weird. I don't know why he got to come back or what that was about either, but yeah.
Yeah, I did not figure that out. And so I saw him leave because I sat on the visitors bench end. And so he comes by me and he leaves and goes to the back. And I thought he was done. I thought it was over. And then, like I said, about 10 minutes later, he comes back out to the court, to the bench. He didn't get right into the game right away, but he did shortly thereafter.
Right.
And, yeah, I'm thinking to myself, what's the dude doing back? Didn't he get tossed out?
Yeah.
Yep, that was.
Yeah, even the color guys were a little confused. Like, it wasn't communicated well what was going on. That was the bigger issue.
Yeah. Well, that may not be the only time that Kentucky gets to be that physical. Now, last night we saw who was the more physical team. But these guys are going to have to wake up. And, I don't know if you got to see Coach Pope's presser today, but he made the comment a la Calipari, Kentucky is everybody's Super Bowl. Okay. Pope knows that. We know that. But these guys that haven't played together and they haven't played at Kentucky, they don't know that. But they're going to have to learn that real soon, because when they go on the road in the SEC, we all know what it's like going on the road in the SEC. You better come with your guns loaded, and you better play defense, and you better hit the basket.
And that's it. Like, people get mad because Calipari used to say, "We're everybody's Super Bowl." Well, it's true. Like, we saw what Clemson did after they win. You know, we see what happens when we go around the SEC. It's T-shirt night. It's Legends night. It's all this kind of stuff. We are the Super Bowl. And even though this team is older and experienced, like you're saying, Dave, like, playing for Kentucky with Kentucky, it's different, right? It's just different. I don't care where you've played before. Even Lamont Butler getting to a Final Four championship game, it ain't the same. Like, it's not quite the same as when you've got Kentucky on your chest and you're going on the road.
And I think that's what Pope was trying to get across to the guys with his post-game comment, that, this being everybody's Kentucky. Hey, guys, you're going to have to get that in your minds right now. We can't do it mid-season. We can't do it toward the end of the season. You got to do it now. And you're going to have to be tough because, you don't, I won't say, a home field advantage or a home court advantage. Most of the time, most everybody's expecting you to win, just like Clemson was expecting to win last night, and they did. But you go on the road like this, that's their house. Mm-hmm. And what are they going to be doing? They're going to be playing exactly like Clemson did last night. So you better fasten your seatbelt and come out with a strong heart, a strong mind, and play some basketball and play some defense.
Yeah, it's just couldn't get that stop when they needed to last night.
That was my concern, is they were getting out tough last night.
Yeah.
And you can't be out toughed.
Definitely. Well, they got out rebounded. Look, they got out rebounded by 10 in the first half. Mm-hmm. Okay, they came back in the second half and they done a lot better. But when what's his name, Shefflin got 20 boards.
Yeah. And he's been there 100 years. He was there when Dean Smith, Shefflin was still at Clemson. And so, look, I've watched Clemson games when they're upsetting Duke or whatever, and I'm pulling for Clemson in that moment. And I've seen his act. I've seen how he plays, and he did us the same way he does them. Andrew Carr had to know this dude. They crossed paths when he was at Wake, just like he played against Duke. But for him to the one play last night, he went over always back and through Williams, didn't get the rebound and fell on his face, and he got up and was mad that he didn't get a foul. He was like, "What happened, ref? Like, you jumped over two guys and like
that's right,
fell on your face, and you mad about a no call?" But that's his deal. He's below the rim. He give him credit. He plays hard. He got a motor. All those things, because he's relentless, and that he outworked him. But I was hoping they would keep going to Williams, on the block, because he could just hit that little lefty jump hook off the glass on him all day. Anytime he was patient enough to do that, he scored. But it just didn't happen. They missed shots, missed free throws again, and just kind of got out tough, like I said.
You mentioned Williams there. I like the guy, and I like what he does down inside. But does he have any post-up moves
besides the jump hook?
He's a little limited.
Hook, yeah.
But that's about it. It's the Dwight Howard package, Vinny. Like if you just get one more move, oh my goodness, just one more.
Yes. And Danny, this is old. I'm a Rockets fan in the NBA. I like the Houston Rockets, and so
I know.
Had Hakeem Olajuwon and Yao Ming. They bring in Dwight Howard. Kevin McHale is the head coach when the Rockets bring in Dwight Howard. So you got one of the greatest bigs ever in the Celtics history, the up and under footwork, post player extraordinaire, Kevin McHale. Dwight, even Olajuwon is still at practice. He's working and showing guys footwork. When he was in Orlando, he worked with Patrick Ewing. He's been around all these big men, and he can't add anything from them into his game. If it wasn't a dunk, he couldn't score. You know, big, broad shoulders and looked like Tarzan and had no – I mean, that just stupefied me. I'm still upset about it. I'm still bitter about it.
We can do it.
Let it go. I'm sorry. Let me calm down.
But yeah, Williams needs another move or two. I would say, but I'm no coach. But I would feel better if he had something, a shimmy, something.
Yeah,
I would too. Yeah, I mean, even if he could just bring one new move to the next game.
Yeah,
you know.
And
so
we give Pope credit for putting this class together on the fly after he got hired. You know, a lot of veteran guys, a lot of things.
Boy. Oh yeah.
They love to have the big man at the top of the key, kind of setting up the offense. I think, I don't know, I might be wrong. In the next phase of his recruitment, in the next phase of the evolution of how he wants his program to be, I think the bigs in his system will be more of a threat. I think maybe this Malachi Marino kid from right here in Kentucky will have the ability to kind of combine Williams and Carr, where he can shoot, where he can do more things, be a little bit more versatile. And I think maybe going forward in year 2 or something, that might be what we see, but we kind of got what we got right now.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you on that. And what you have to look at is that Williams and Carr, they've already played 4 years, so they already got their moves down, and it's kind of like teaching an old dog new tricks.
It's hard to do.
It's hard to do. Yeah. So he's satisfied with what how he plays. He's satisfied with the shots that he makes. He's happy with the way it's going for him, because that's what he's used to.
That's a good point.
But anyway, we got to lick our wounds and move on and get ready for Gonzaga. And I'd love to go out there and be able to shoot that, but that's a long trip.
Yeah.
But
it is.
You know what? I'm kind of thinking to myself. I had one of my friends say today, about Gonzaga, that Kentucky better watch out. I know Gonzaga is going to be tough, and they're going to be, it's their home state, and it's only an hour up the road to Seattle. So I'm kind of thinking, as hyped up as Clemson was last night, now Gonzaga might be hyped up too, but I'm kind of thinking maybe with Kentucky losing last night, what they learned, I'm kind of thinking maybe Gonzaga won't be that much of a problem.
And Kentucky has already been out there and lost last year, year before last. They went out to Spokane and played.
Might have been 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because Gonzaga was in Rupp last year.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be Pope going out there this time, and of course he's faced Gonzaga a lot being out there in BYU. But as far as the whole Kentucky's here for the first time, those Washington State people, those Gonzaga people they've already been there and done that. Even though it'll be Seattle instead of Spokane, the bulk of them were probably there at the kennel, and it's not like, hey, we're getting Kentucky for the first time ever. That's kind of that shiny bow has already been pulled off for the gift, I guess. That makes sense. Yeah.
So we're really going to have to. I don't know what Pope is going to work on in practice. Maybe what he worked on today, what he's going to work on tomorrow, because Friday, I guess, will be travel day. But I sincerely hope he worked on some things that really needed to be worked on. And it might not necessarily be the defense. It may, it may be some things in the offense that we still need to work on and have a little better production, a little better performance. Because clearly last night it wasn't there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
That's true.
I don't know if he didn't get them ready, or I think he kind of blamed himself for it.
He did. He said in hindsight he could have done some things. He did,
Yeah. I think he was concerned about the bigs getting in foul trouble. So he kind of there towards the end of the first half, he kind of went small, and it might not have been a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
Going back to the photography thing with you, when was the first time was the first game you shot in Rupp Arena? How long have you been?
First game I shot in Rupp Arena was 2016. So I've been doing it about 8 years now.
Okay.
I've been into photography for 40 years, but I was mostly doing other types of photography. And the sports photography, which I love, man, it just kind of sort of fell in my lap. And I was at Kroger Field, a la Commonwealth Stadium back then. Ran into one of the sports photographers, and we just started talking, and small talk. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, I'm a photographer too. How's somebody get into this?" And he told me who to make contact with, and made contact with this gentleman who is also in Jackson, Kentucky. And he said, "Send me some of your work and let me take a look at it." And so I sent him some of my work. He took a look at it. He said, "Hey, I like it." He said, when can you go shoot?"
Wow.
And I said, whenever you're ready.
That was going to be my question, because my wife actually has a degree in photography from the Minnesota College of Art and Design. I think that's right. Yeah, that's right. So when I told her we were having a photographer on, she's always, because eventually we're going to get a dark room and all that kind of stuff. Like, she is artsy fartsy photography and that kind of stuff. So I was going to ask a little bit about your photography background, because your pictures are awesome. The ones I've seen from your drone and from the games. I'm a little bit more appreciative of photography, which happens when your wife is a photographer. The little things that she can point out, oh, that captures the light. Just, oh, yeah, it's a good picture. But I'm a little bit more attuned these days.
Well, you have to be, especially in sports, you have to be Johnny on the spot, because a photo only lasts 1 second. And when that second is gone, that photo's gone, and you'll never get that particular photo back ever again. Yeah. So it only lasts 1 second. So you better be Johnny on the spot. You better be ready for it. And lots of times, I won't say it's the luck. There's an old saying in photography there, Terry, that I done lost it there. Spray and pray.
Yeah.
In other words, let that shutter go and start shooting.
and let me be clear, gentlemen. It's the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. I have been corrected, so I apologize. Love you, baby.
Yeah.
So I may be out with that one.
Yeah, we get that right.
I started back in the 1980s when we we had film, 35 millimeter film. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, as the years went by, I kind of I got remarried, and I kind of put the photography away for a while, just trying to concentrate on raising family and doing parent stuff, dad stuff, kind of thing. So I put it away. But then in the early part of 2000, when things were transitioning over from film over to digital, I kind of shied away from it for a long time. I'm like, man, I don't know about this digital stuff. But I mean, I wouldn't trade it now. I wouldn't go back to film for anything. I mean, and actually, they still do make film for cameras, for film cameras. But there's probably only 1% of the photographers in the world that has film cameras now.
Yeah,
everything is all digital, and it's really convenient because you can look on the back of the screen, and you can see the shot right then instantly. And see what you have, see what you don't have, see what you need to practice on, see what you need to get better at. And, for that reason, it's made it so much more convenient.
Now, you mentioned, Danny, that you also shoot at Commonwealth Stadium / Kroger Field. And we hadn't talked about it much, but it was a sad year for us on that front this year in football. And Terry and I both, we did a little win-loss show predictions. We both said 8-4, and we weren't saying it just to say it. We both thought if they show up and play, there's 8 games on that schedule they can win. There's 4 teams that are on paper better: Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, Ole Miss. But you never know. And 8-4 was right there, and instead we got 4-8. Lord have mercy.
I don't know if you know Jamie Bott out of Middlesboro, Kentucky.
Yeah. I'm from Harlan County, so I'm from the mountains too.
Well, actually, my late wife and you have something in common. She's from Harlan County too. She was from Little Laurel, and she went to Pine Mountain Settlement School.
Yeah, know exactly where you're talking about. Sure enough. Yeah, I grew up in Lynch, went to high school in Cumberland, so yeah.
I saw that. Yeah, her brother lived in Everett.
Okay, yep, that's right. Right up the road, yeah, right down the road, rather. Been all over there.
I've been down there a number of times. It's been quite a while since I've gotten to that area, but I've been down there a number of times. But Jamie and I, Jamie always has this prediction at the beginning of the season. And I think he was kind of leaning towards what you guys were saying, 8-4, 7-5, at the worst 7-5, but 8-4. And then I heard some comments of 9-3. And being around Kentucky football as long as I have, as long as you guys have, we know this program. Yeah. And we know the history. And so I just kind of looked at Jamie, and I'm just kind of like, Jamie, 6-6. And then I said 5-7 at the worst. But I wasn't expecting 4-8.
Man. Yeah,
did you see today? This may be news in the last 2 hours. Dane Key has entered the portal.
Oh, I hadn't seen that one.
So I saw that right before we were getting ready to come on, Vinny. We were going to talk about that. I know that Stoops and Vince have been on this blitz. Everything's, nothing to see here. It's like that scene in The Naked Gun where Leslie Nielsen is like, nothing to see here with the fireworks going off in the background. Like, you're telling me not to worry, but if you can't keep a Dane Key, I'm starting to worry.
Yeah.
Legacy kid. Look, Dante tackle and knock heads as a linebacker. And, as a kid, I watched Dante, and now here I'm watching Dane. And for a legacy kid from Lexington and after this year, I mean, can you blame him? And he's gotten a lot of interest. There's and the receivers coach 1 year and done, and he's moving to Nebraska with Dana Hope, where he was at before. Yeah, hey, it's
And I don't think that we've seen the last of it either.
Yeah, more to come. Unfortunately, more to come.
Got a lot of work to be done over there at Kroger Field and with that program. And I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole, but we both have heard how the fans feel about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just, you got to show me now. That's where I'm at. And this past year, You know, you had a couple 7-5s where you probably should have been 8-4, 9-3, and you were 7-5. Stoops said it himself one time after 1 year. We were 2 plays away from 9-3, and you were, but you didn't make those plays. And so now you supposedly reloaded going into this year when we all thought, you know, 8-4 is right there on the table, and for it to fall apart like this, I'm glad a lot of people in the signing class still wanted to come. That's great, but none of them are going to be ready to come in and play. So now you gotta get this portal right, and you gotta hope these dudes come in and fit and can play, and that's the way to fix it. Because if not, man,
it's I don't have an answer, man. My brother's kind of the same way. He has the same answer about the Wildcats he does about the Cowboys.
What does he do? Just shake his head?
And poor Vinny is a Cowboys and a Kentucky football fan. So
it's been a while. It's been one of them years. It's been a while since I had one of those years, but this was one of those years, y'all.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean McCarthy is. I think McCarthy's a great coach, but I don't know. I'm just shaking my head about it. I feel that way about the Wildcats football too. Just shaking my head. And yeah, I got to be honest with you about something. I lived in Georgia back in the 1980s. Now, you know who was running all across the football field back in Georgia in the 1980s?
Herschel
Walker. Yep. I got to see this guy zipping and zagging and taking off down the field and leaving everybody behind back in the 1980s. And I got acclimated to, I'm sorry to say this, Georgia football. I got acclimated to the Dogs, and I still follow them to this day. And had a kind of a rough year this year.
I'd like to have that kind of rough year. I mean, we kill for that kind of rough year around here.
2-2 is bad for the Dogs.
Oh, man, yeah.
Yeah.
Still in the SEC championship game. Still in the SEC championship game. That was real rough.
But anyway, am I a diehard UGA fan? No, I'm not a diehard, but I do follow them and I do love them. But I love Kentucky too, and I always want to see Kentucky do good, as all of us do, and I'm sure you guys do too, and all the fans do. They want this program to succeed and be good.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like there a couple of years ago that Stoops was headed in the right direction. We're about ready to climb up that mountain and get over that hump and start being somewhat of an elite program. But I don't know what happened. I mean, I kind of go back to what happened to Nebraska.
Mm.
You remember back in the 80s and the 90s, Nebraska, what that was? I mean, they were up there with Michigan and Ohio State, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Those Tommy Frazier teams.
They used to whoop Tennessee and Florida in bowl games. I mean, just wear them out. Wear them out.
Oh, yeah. And up there with Penn State, Joe Paterno, wow. But I'm still trying to figure out what happened to Nebraska.
Well, they got rid of Tom Osborne.
Yeah.
Or he retired, I should say, after 30 years. They brought in Frank Solich. He went 9-3, which is not their standard. Got rid of him replaced him. Was it Bo Pelini or was it then Callahan? Remember they had that run of all these coaches, and like we say all the time, like you can get one bad hire wrong, right? You bring a coach in, it doesn't work. One hire doesn't kill you. Two bad hires, and now you're set back 4 or 5 years. And that's tough to dig out, even if you're Nebraska football or Indiana basketball, right?
Yeah.
When Cal got to his end, I wasn't concerned that Kentucky was going to fall completely off the map because
no,
we got that institutional want to, right? But I'm like, okay, if Pope doesn't work, what's the next plan, right? You get one Billy G. You get one, you realize after 2 years that ain't working. But that next person has to be really, really good. And Nebraska and Indiana have not had that.
Right. I agree. Totally. Yeah. Well, that's funny that you mentioned Billy G. I was talking the other day about Alan Cutler chasing. Over there at the Joe Kraft Center.
That is something that Kentucky fans always bond over. Even during this search for Coach Pope, I saw people posting talking about it's not a coaching search until you get Alan Cutler running around Memorial Coliseum. And we had him on during the summer, Vinny. We had Alan Cutler on, and we even talked about it then. Like, that for Kentucky fans, that is a memory that we'll always have. About Cutler chasing around.
I see Alan every once in a while, but I don't bring that up.
And Billy said, you need to get in shape. And Alan said, I can walk all day with you, Billy. Oh, man. That was so classic, man. It was on SportsCenter and everything, man.
Yeah. I tell you, my brother and I, we go way back with sports, brother. We go back all the way back to the 70s. One of the first pro basketball games that my brother saw, we actually saw it at historical Memorial Coliseum, was the Kentucky Colonels with Artis Gilmore.
Wow.
I think it was they played an exhibition game with the Indiana Pacers.
Man.
Back in the 70s. So we go a long way back with sports, brother.
That's some history right there, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And Jamie and I, we actually even talk about Colonel's stuff a little bit, and he knows all about that stuff too. He goes back to the 60s. He goes back to Stoll Field.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's written how many books? He's written so many books.
At least a half a dozen.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I've got I think I've got 3 of them.
Okay.
They're good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, Game's a good guy. So this time next week, are you going to be at Rupp Arena shooting the Colgate game, Danny?
Probably. Okay. I haven't. We have to get approved on a game-by-game basis. So Mr. Miller will probably put me in to shoot that one, and I'll know maybe 2 days before whether I get to shoot that or not. But if I am, and you're watching it on TV, you can look for me down there behind the basket.
Absolutely.
I always do with my wife when we're watching. I'm always trying to point out the people I know that are on the sideline. So I'm going to be looking for you, Danny.
I tell you what, gentlemen, it's fun stuff. It's I really enjoy it, and you get to be out there. You rub elbows and hobnob with some of the players and some of the coaches. I mean, it's good stuff. I enjoy it, and I hope to be doing it for several more years.
You talked about the phrase with the let the shutter go. You said what? Say it and pray it.
Spray and pray.
Spray and pray. Okay. So out of all the spraying and praying that you've done, what is your absolute favorite shot of as a sports photographer that you've ever, the one you're most proud of, Danny?
Oh my heavens. I'd have to go back through there, Vinny. I have to go back through and look and try to pick out. I think one of my favorite was Cal on the sideline, and he was yelling and screaming at somebody, and his mouth was as wide open as you could possibly get it, and I snapped that one.
You let the shirt go.
That's what.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing more of your work there at Bluegrass Sports Nation. And
Yeah,
I know it's spurred a moment, but it was an honor to have you on here this evening. And we definitely have to get you back on again on a Wednesday that's not a game night or something, Daddy. Enjoy having
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I'd be honored to.
Yes, sir.
well, we thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Have a good evening, gentlemen.
You too. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Danny Pendleton, Bluegrass Sports Nation, drone photos.
Yeah.
I mean, the cow photos, the Kroger Field, he's all over. Baseball, he got all the shots, man. So it's but Danny we had on, Phil Page, Scott Utterback too. That's at least
We've had a lot of photography.
Yeah.
And my girls still have the picture that Phil was nice enough to gift us when I moved to the condo back in 2017. The girls still have it. That was very nice of him to do. So yeah, I'm learning about photography.
Yeah, man.
I kind of have to.
It's fun to learn about too.
But a lot to cover this week. We covered a lot of Kentucky stuff. Let's talk about rivalry week and all the fights. I don't know when the flag planting became a thing. I don't know. I know Baker Mayfield's done it, going back some years, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I see people, I'm going to start with Michigan, Ohio State. I don't know, did a group text go out amongst all these college football teams that were going to visit their rivals on the road? Basically, like, if you win, you got to put a flag in the ground. We saw it at NC State. We saw it at Arizona State. They put the trident in the ground. Like, we've seen that, right? But Michigan, Ohio State. I see people, and it's like, okay, well, if you had that fight during the game, no. Look, you can still go out here and lose, but that doesn't give you a free ride to embarrass me.
Yeah.
To make it personal, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna go back to Terrell Owens. Okay.
Thank you. Because
right. Okay.
That's the first place.
So the thing is, when Terrell Owens signed the football with the Sharpie, did the pom-poms, did the popcorn, that's ha ha ha, he over here, the opposing team's over here.
Yep.
But I remember watching this with my dad back in the day. When he goes to the star, okay, you scored a touchdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do your dance in the end zone, go to the sideline. That's fine. Once you go to the star, that's different.
He planted himself.
That is wiping your muddy boots on somebody's couch, right?
Yeah.
Because he did it, and then Emmett made a point, boom. And then Owens did it again. And who was it? Teague?
George Teague.
That came and hit him, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do this act, expect a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So at the Michigan game, my only thing is you got to wait till the team's off the field.
Yeah.
Because
I just watched this Mayfield and nobody's out there but Oklahoma people.
Right. But if you plan it, and there's and the other teams out there, they have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
They have to.
Yo.
because, okay, we lost the game. We sad. Now you're being disrespectful. The game's over.
Yeah.
I can't block you. You can't block me. Now we have to fight. Right? And so
beat us, but you ain't about to put this flag.
Right. You're not going to, no, like, well, the winners. No, that's not, no. Like, look, it would be like, Evansville or VMI, whatever, going in the rup, winning the game, and then acting a fool at center court. No. You won. You get to be happy. That's fantastic. That's one thing. That's the game. You can't be disrespectful. All right. Also the problem with the Michigan, once the fight started and the people are sorting it out, the one Michigan dude, and you can see this in the video, that grabs the flag as Ohio State people are walking off, and you can watch him circle around to get into the stream of people that are trying to get off the field. Now we got a problem. It ain't just planting it. Now you waving this in my face. We have to fight. Like, I don't understand this. Well, you win, you can do whatever. No, you win with class, but you beat me. So now you get to kiss my girl. Now you get to, like, you won the game. Do you get to come into my locker room and just take what you want? No, what? No, you have to understand there's acts that if you do it, you have to be ready to fight.
They interviewed the guy from Michigan. He said, "Yeah, some of you guys, they got to learn how to lose." Well, if they come to Michigan and beat y'all next year, y'all just gonna be like, "Okay, well, here, plant the big Ohio State flag on it." Y'all ain't gonna do that. You talking about learn how to lose.
And then people, well, such and such team did this to Michigan. That's not the game. That is not the game. So even if Evansville or was it UNC Asheville last year or whoever beat Kentucky?
Yeah.
Right? Even if one of those teams danced a jig at center court and Rupp Arena, okay, maybe. You know who's not? U of L. You know who's not? Tennessee. It's different.
Nope.
The stuff these other teams may get to do, you can't do. Like, Evansville people taking pictures, all the, like, oh, okay, y'all get to do that. All right, whatever. I ain't going, but Louisville? No. Of course, Louisville doesn't win in Rupp Arena, but the point I'm making hypothetically, say, well, no. Well, you get to win. No, because now we got to fight. Now, Ohio State's problem is they lost the game and the fight.
Sure did. Yeah.
So that's a Ryan Day issue, and him being like 66-10, but like 1 in whatever against Michigan.
1 in 4.
That is. I mean,
to lose to this Michigan team, I know it's a rivalry, throw the records out and all this kind of stuff, but for everything they had in front of them and the struggle bus that this Michigan team's been on, look, Harbaugh gone to San Diego, Coach Clint Scale that used to be here that went to Michigan, he out in San Diego. All the fragments of that title team that's been beating you for 3 years in a row is going. McCarthy, the quarterback, he went Minnesota, he hurt out for the year.
Yeah.
That whole squad is a shell of itself, and they still come to Columbus. And did y'all, when y'all got the playoff and all this Big Ten championship, and they 6-5?
Ohio State,
3 in a row, and still got you.
Ohio State wants and finds itself in that national conversation. I would say more so than Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
Ohio State wants to be a peer with Alabama. Okay, but for the last 30 years, there's been a lot of, why is Ohio State better? And I know they've had a lot of success, right? But it feels like they should have a little bit more hardware.
Yeah. Especially
because a lot of those playoff games, a lot of those BCS games, like, they got dusted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, And that's another thing. We're going to talk about the SEC and the playoff and all this kind of stuff. But look, if you win, celebrate with your team. If you try to plant a flag, now we have to fight.
Yeah.
We have to fight. Don't do like Ohio State and get the police out there macing everybody. No. Or at least win the fight. But yeah, you trying to plant a flag, we got to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is. And it ain't about you should have done that like we couldn't fight during the game. But now you're carrying over this disrespect. We have to fight.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see some curtailing of that. Because it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then be like, why they try to fight? Man, like I said, Terrell Owens, you can do all that stuff. You score a touchdown.
Yeah.
You come to the star, you know what the bleep you're doing. Like, he couldn't have been surprised when T got him. There was no surprise there.
Yeah.
And they're pushing and shoving. And the rest of the Niners at that point were like, yeah, you kind of on your own with that. Like, good looking. So, so that was that. There was something else I was going to say about rivalry weekend. I love it. I hate losing to Louisville the way we did. I know we talked about that with Danny, but this season, man, with Dane Key leaving, like, the issue with Stoops in Kentucky football is, yes, he's got the contract, but outside of the contract, it's like it was with Cal. Do we think that Stoops can right the ship? You know, it comes down to, even to the great ones, it's what have you done for me lately? Right? That's always the thing. And I've seen the quotes come out, oh, this was a bad year. And as you point out, no, this has been like a 3-year slide.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Vanderbilt has come into Commonwealth/Kroger Field and won back-to-back games.
Yep.
Like we are, you and I talked about some years ago when we were kind of at that peak, we had won 7-8 straight games against South Carolina, against Missouri, against Vanderbilt.
Yep.
But where's that at now? And the frustrating thing is there were flashes where they looked competent at Ole Miss. At Texas, I thought they fared better at Texas than I thought they were going to. And so I don't know what's next. I don't know how you fix it, because as you point out, the recruits are coming, but this ain't basketball, man. Like, you can't just roll out a whole bunch of first-year players in the SEC and expect, like, so I don't know what happens, but the difference is with Kentucky basketball, men's basketball, it's like, okay, Cal ain't the hotness. We need the new hotness, but Kentucky football got that apparatus with you, right? Like, and so, but Kentucky football doesn't have it. We don't have that institutional get it done. So with football, I don't know, man. Because Stoops, we knew he tried to leave last year.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And you can't have a new offensive coordinator every season.
Yeah.
And we're plucking quarterbacks off the transfer portal. That's not the way this goes. And we've had questions about that for a while. But last thing on that is, and that thing is too, Kentucky basketball, even though the fans weren't happy with Cal the last few years, people still showing up. Football being 4-8, people ain't showing up for that.
No,
that's the difference.
As red as it can be.
Yeah, losing to Louisville, and then I got to see all the Louisville people. Hey, it's been 8 years. Calm it down. Calm it down. Like, I just hate losing to Louisville because it's a bunch of excuses. Like, you couldn't count last year's win because it was Brahms' first game, even though they were favored. The Satterfield wins, those don't count because he's not a good coach. Like the Craig Thorpe wins don't count. So when you look at it, it's really all time. It's Louisville 10, Kentucky 0. When you look at the real games, there's always something, right? So I do despise that. I hate losing to Louisville, but tip your cap card. Y'all won that one.
Yeah, they got it. So yeah, well, and just got to show me if you can fix it. That's where I'm at, and it's so much to fix. I just don't.
That's the thing is, how do you do it in the off season?
Yeah,
I like, to me, the culture is bad because you can't be year 11, year 12 with these boneheaded penalties, right? I still go back to those Florida games where you got somebody uncovered twice in one game, maybe the same half. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
but we always are having these bonehead penalties. We're jawing when we shouldn't be jawing. Don't throw your L's down when it's 27-7. Just go make a play. Like, what are we doing?
Exactly.
That we need a culture change, but with the same coach. Like, I don't know. I just don't know how you get that magic back. I used to think that, it would be tough getting Stoops out of the paint. Again, the contract's a different thing, but all-time winningest coach, can Kentucky football get to the point where they can push the all-time winningest coach out the door? And I'd have to say, yeah, you kind of have to. Yeah, you have to look at it.
Yeah.
If you want to keep any kind of momentum, because it's clear Kentucky football needs a fresh start. Yeah. But is Stoops the one to give it to him? I don't know. I mean, we see the fresh start women's basketball got. We see the fresh start men's basketball's gotten. Last night's loss notwithstanding. Yeah. Which, like I talked about before we started recording, I know we have to love the new guy, but we have to be true about the old guy. Because I saw some people on Twitter like, oh, you learn from a loss. I get that. We all say the same thing after a loss. Like, not that bad. We were right in it, blah, 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 blah. And somebody's like, oh, we heard that from Cal in year one. No, we didn't. Not in November, not in December. And it was almost February before that first team looked. Like, go back and look at how Cal hit the ground running. Like, we talk about how it ended. And everybody's talking about, how it ended. Look at from the jump.
Yeah.
3 months in, we were back to being number one in the country.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that's a rebuild, look at the roster we would have had Cal not shown up that first year. When Patrick Patterson and Jorts were out the door.
Yeah.
Like, look at those names that we would have had open tryouts. If you don't think that's a rebuild. Okay. Cal hit the ground running. We have to be honest about that.
You're right. Sure did.
And I'm rooting for Mark Pope with all my heart. But, buddy, you got about 3 years to get to a Final Four. 3 to 4. Because that's the standard. And I've been telling people publicly and privately, that's the standard. Right? Because that's how we got Cal out the paint, was he wasn't living up to the standard. And every coach that we think of as being good Kentucky coaches got to a Final Four within year 3. 4 with Pitino, but that was probation. That was really starting at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
So that's the standard. Joe B, runner-up, year 3.
Sure
Rick,
enough.
Final Four, year 4. Year 3 gave us the greatest college basketball team of all time, or game of all time. That ain't what I said. That's what other people smarter than me have said, right? That's year 3, okay? Tubby put a banner up there, year 1. Cal, Final Four year 2, championship year 3. I don't want to hear about, well, times are different. I just covered 50 years of Kentucky basketball, and I'm telling you, that's the standard. And it can't be the standard because you like this coach more than this coach, or this coach says the right thing and this coach didn't. Like, I've looked back at some of Rick Pitino stuff. Like, Rick wasn't touchy-feely about what it meant to be a Kentucky Wildcat when he was here.
True.
But what did he do? He won games. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
We can dress it up to understand the assignment and blah, 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 blah. Win basketball games. That's it. That is your job, is to put banners in Rupp. That's your job. And we can do analytics. We can do whatever. You got to win. That's all it is. So, anywho. And all these people saying Stoops is going to come to Iowa. No, man. Because this past weekend, rivalry weekend, right? Kentucky converted no third downs against Louisville.
Yeah.
Iowa converted no third downs against Nebraska and won. So, but you can have bad offense and still be successful. Like, a lot of people, I get into it because I'm here in Iowa. I'm seeing this like, oh, Iowa's offense, this, that, and the other. Iowa's offense was historically bad last year. They got to 10 wins. Yeah. And you could talk about, well, they in the Big Ten. And I've had people come at me because I'm like, look, Iowa, they beat Wisconsin. They beat Minnesota. Well, that doesn't move me. Buddy, we're losing to Vanderbilt and South Carolina. Okay? Like, but the thing about Iowa is we're not going to have no offense. That's fine. Right? We got just enough.
Yeah.
We're going to play outstanding defense and special teams.
Yeah.
And I saw this upset Nebraska thing got tweeted to my timeline. Iowa football is like, this is a win for the culture. And this Nebraska man was like, this is for the culture, 200 yards of offense. And yes, that's how they win games. The last 10 years, I was looking for the exact stat, but this is what I remember. Over the last 10 years, teams that have less than 200 yards of offense, Iowa wins 46% of those games. Okay, 46%. Everybody else in college football, 10%. This is Iowa's get down.
Yeah,
they are going to play good defense, and all they need is one play. But that's their identity. They're like, a play is going to present itself. We're going to hit that home run, and we're going to win it. That's how you can have bad offense, because everybody talking smack. Iowa's won 18 games over the last 2 years.
Yeah, takes a lot of discipline to play like that.
Would you like to have Kentucky have won 18 games?
Yeah. And
I'm not even talking about beating Georgia or Alabama. I'm like, win the games you're supposed to. Win these, like, there are 18 wins out there. As you said earlier, when you and I sat down and we said, we can get to 8 wins, that wasn't crazy talk, I don't think. Like, you can say, well, look what they did. Yeah, but I wasn't anticipating losing to Vanderbilt, USC Junior, Florida. Right? Like,
yeah. Auburn at home.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Stoops' teams they're undisciplined. That's not Iowa.
Right.
That's the thing is Iowa cannot afford to have any unsportsmanlike penalties. 15 yards to Iowa. That's a lot. That's crippling.
Yeah, that's right.
But I'm glad they beat that kid at Nebraska. Thinks he's Patrick Mahomes, Raiola. It was cute, man. But hey, we need to wrap that up. All right, like, you got your hair cut like him. Hey, okay, we need to.
That's right. That's it.
But I'm all ranting and raving. The 49ers season, throw it in the trash, man. Like this.
Yeah, it's just. And then,
this is how bad it's gotten. George Kittle post game, he was a little short with the media, and that's not usually George's get down.
no.
He had one catch for 9 yards, and that was it. That was like the first drive of the game, and he didn't. And so it's bad. This is the guy. He didn't even talk anything about Jimmy Garoppolo on the way out.
Wow.
So yeah, I know. Because when Jimmy G's on the way, I was like, "What do you think about Jimmy?" Like, hey,
I was watching that. I'm still finishing it. That receivers documentary on Netflix I'll tell you about, because it's him, it's Debo, Justin Jefferson, and St. Brown for the Lions. But they're all mic'd up, so you get all the footage in game.
Yeah.
They're blocking guys, and then and Kittle is hilarious, dude. Like, I hate he's and he's always, I love football and and he does his little, whatever his little celebration is when he does like the bullfighter
for the first down.
Yeah.
For the first down,
and then it's showing his parents and his wife, and they're all cool and all they're great people. It almost wants to make you like him, but I'm not gonna do that. But I'm enjoying the documentary.
He's almost family now. Kittle's grandparents and my wife's grandparents were friends way back when at Iowa Wesleyan, so we almost family.
Oh, okay,
almost. I mean, sure, why not? But this season is taking its toll on Kittle.
Yeah. Wow.
And then a funny tweet I came across, like, we got to stop calling that man Debo. We got to go by his government name.
Oh,
you got to be Tyshawn now.
And see, and it's him, and he's got his little boy, and
little Debo.
It all shows them, so it's really cool, getting to know the 49ers a little bit. I watched it, I've enjoyed it. But for him to be short the media, that makes me want to go look up that press conference.
I'll send you the clip. And this has just been a bad season. Purdy's been banged up, and I know that kind of stuff happens. This is what happened last time we lost Super Bowl. Jimmy G got hurt, and I forget the quarterbacks that we had come out there, but I was like, like CJ Berthard or something like that. Like, I'm like, oh my God, but it, has the window closed? I've been talking to you for years. The window is getting close, right? These things don't stay open forever. But we'll see what happens next year. Come back healthy and see.
Yep. That's all you can do.
Because I might be running back number 4 heading into next week.
Yeah.
I know, and look, I know other teams have had injuries. I know y'all got Dak out, and you've had a lot of people out. I get that, man. But whenever this chapter ends, my what if is going to be Purdy NFC Championship game a couple years ago. That's going to be my what if when it comes to injury was that one. I thought if we could have got to that Super Bowl, maybe we beat the Chiefs. Also, Jimmy G going full Jimmy G in the NFC Championship game against the Rams.
Yeah.
That Rams game really, the Rams game, that one hurts.
Yeah.
Because that would have been the Niners and Bengals in the Super Bowl. And the universe, God, Allah, Buddha probably knew that I would have probably been mean to some of our Bengals fans at the 49ers beat them for a third time in the Super Bowl.
Oh, man.
I haven't forgot about you, Andy, when you told me back Super Bowl 23 that the Bengals were going to icky shuffle. And I ain't forgot.
Absolutely.
And I know I texted you for that clip where I was ranting on Joe Burrow. One of my Iowa friends here, a lot of them are Kansas City Chiefs fans, whatever. But his thing was talking about, Bengals fans are always chirping, but have they always been like this? I said, sir, let me give you this. Yes, they have. Absolutely. Absolutely. And look, Joe Burrow is dealing. He's dealing.
Yeah.
But you're Bengals, so there you go.
Hopefully we can give them another loss Monday. As to I don't watch the Manning cast when the Cowboys play and all that kind of stuff, but we got the Simpsons game. I'm gonna watch us the Simpsons version of the Cowboys Bengals Monday because why not? You know,
I tell you though, I like Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Do I want him as my quarterback? No.
Yeah.
Because I call him Charles Dickens because with Jameis, you're gonna get the best of times, you're gonna get the worst of times. Like you're gonna get one of the greatest throws you've ever seen, and then you're gonna go, how the hell did you not see that guy? You're gonna get 4 touchdowns and 2 pick sixes. Like that's the Jameis Winston experience. I'm okay with it. Jameis should have been here with the run and shoot. And just whatever happened. And then he's auditioning to be to lead a revival somewhere.
Man,
I'm gonna ask the Lord to protect me from these pick sixes. Yeah. No, man, just read a scouting report. Like Jesus can't help you. Like, pay attention, man. The Lord helped those to help himself. What are you doing? Like
he sound like
he YOLO.
He sound like a king talking to Cleo every time he talks. He says, "Sir, did you happen to catch the professional football contest on television last night?"
That's right.
No. The Giants from New York were playing the Packers from Green Bay. And the Giants triumphed by kicking a large oblong football made of pigskin through a giant H. It was most exhilarating. And whenever he's talking, I just want to be like, son, you want to keep working here? Stay off the drugs.
It feels like Jameis is doing a bit. It feels like, but then you're like, well, he's doing this for real. Like he really liked this.
I mean, Ray Lewis was passionate. He get the Ravens fired up, and there's times I'd be like, yeah, okay. And he even farther than Ray. He on a whole nother level than Ray used to be. And he ain't the player Ray was. Ray give you that pregame, whatever, and then he gonna go out and get his 15 tackles and be defensive player of the year and MVP and win the Super Bowl. Jameis, he middle of the pack and just you don't know what you're gonna get, but you getting the Ray Lewis level stuff on the pregame. It's snowing in Cleveland, Ohio, and I feel great, and I want to be here. And now he should have been playing over Watson. I'll give him that. I don't know what because that was stupid to keep putting Watson out there for him not to do no better than he was doing. But Jameis ain't up there like all that.
I'm gonna say this real quick. If Jameis had been starting like his entire career, he's Brett Favre.
Yeah.
Because when Brett Favre was at his peak, I ain't talking about him robbing the welfare, like whatever. I'm talking about his playing days.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, with the game on the line, I'd have Brett Favre. Would you? Because I've seen a lot of them games, they'd be playing the Lions in the Superdome, and he would just throw off a pass. And you're like, what are you doing? Like all quarterbacks throw interceptions. It happens. But how many YOLO throws did Brett Favre throw where you're like, what in the hell are you doing? Jameis would have been that because Favre is up there top 5 in touchdowns, but like number 1 in interceptions. That could have been the Jameis Winston experience.
Mm-hmm.
And when Brett Favre won a Super Bowl, they ran the ball.
Yeah,
you remember the Super Bowl MVP when the Packers won, right?
Mm-hmm.
Desmond Howard.
Mm-hmm.
Because Mike Holmgren, like, all right, we go. Edgar Bennett, you gonna have to we're gonna take the ball out your hands, Brett. But yeah, there you go. So that was the weekend in sports. The Kentucky women, I think they play. Is it tonight or tomorrow?
It's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But how you gonna beat in Illinois by 20 and not move? Whatever, Poland.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. But good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be rooting for the Cowboys on Monday because I do not like the Bengals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hopefully we can keep them sliding like they are here. But it's
Don't get me wrong.
Thank you for your support.
I ain't gonna have nothing with no star on it. Let me be very clear about that.
Yeah, I understand. You can only go so far, and I know.
Yeah, I'll be like, I might say, how about them Cowboys? You may see me on the social media doing that, but anywho, another great show. We had great guests today.
Yeah, man. Enjoy it. Teran Rodriguez, Danny Pendleton. 2 good guests on.
And next week we're gonna have a good guest. One of my coworkers who talks to me about sports all the time. He's gonna come on. We're gonna talk a little WNBA because we are both all in on Caitlin and the WNBA. So we're gonna talk about that.
All right. Looking forward to it. Y'all join us again next week. PS3 Network. Go to the Roku channel. We got episodes in the archives. If you missed some, we got all of them right there. You can watch them. People tweet at us watching them on TV. They're tearing out on their Roku. So go there and check us out, or YouTube, or follow on Twitter, all that good stuff. But we'll hop on over here for now. Appreciate y'all checking us out. TB, this is Vinny. Thanks to Teran and Danny. See everybody next week. Let's go beat Gonzaga Saturday.
Absolutely. Take down the Zags.
Yes, sir.